Hey Roger, so I just wanted to talk about a little bit about confidence today. But before I do that, I actually wanted to read this really wonderful post by somebody from one of the articles, the ATP World Tour article or whatever, where they're asking you like what you thought your best three shots were. Um, it's so funny too because if somebody asks me what your best shot was, like there's just so many of them. Like there's so many good ones that I can't even like pinpoint like one. Not at this moment. I would have to like think about it. It's just really weird. It's like so many of them like just clustered together. You kind of can't pick one. But the ones that you picked were kind of interesting, and there were a couple of fans who were like, oh, that's interesting that he picked those shots, which I thought was interesting as well. Because the one that stands out for a few people as well, and that was like really like an emotional lift, I guess, at Wimbledon, but may not have been that way for you. It just goes to show you what's what for everybody in each role that they play as a spectator, as the player, what how certain shots affect people emotionally. But anyway, so I want to read this beautiful post that this guy with the last name Klosowski wrote. And he says, to me, that point at the 2008 championship stands out the most. The shot itself was not the most spectacular, perhaps. It was only, he puts in quotes, a passing shot down the line. But if you consider the situation, it was the most unbelievable. I screamed my lungs out. It was the most preposterous example of resilience I've ever seen. Championship point down on the opponent's serve, being first carried out of the court by a typical lefty serve out wide, getting it back again, being pushed out even more into the same direction by a wickedly spinned cross-court forehand. You are beyond the tram lines. Your opponent cuts down your angles by approaching the net. You have no breathing space whatsoever. You have this one try at one of the toughest shots in the game, or the final is over. You have no time to think, to prepare for it, only pure instinct. You make a step toward the ball, rip your backhand down the line, you nail it into the corner of the court. You indeed are the greatest of all time. I mean, that freaking comment took me on a ride, like even just emotionally. And I guess it got to kind of get me clear too for some of the things that you've done that move people. Why so moved emotionally? Why people just care so much about Roger Federer? And I guess it's like humanity. You know what I mean? It's just like humanity. So anyway. And then there was another person who wrote. There were a couple of people who wrote that shot actually on this board. A couple Facebook comments where a few people actually noted that very same shot. So it was just really interesting. So for whatever reason, I was like looking at the other shots that people had listed, the ones that you had listed as I guess, your favorite shots, and then people took the liberty of finding them on YouTube and posting links and stuff like that. And so I looked at the one against Roddick or whatever, and that actually led to one of my favorite matches of yours, which was almost anything at the U.S. Open 2007 was pretty much a favorite for me. That for me was like, and I don't know, I may have said this in some other videos like ages ago, but that for me was the very first time that I ever got to see a player go from the very first stage all the way to the last stage, and it was such an emotional ride. Like out of everyone, I liked you, Roger Federer, but this was a tournament that really turned it for me. As I knew that you were a favorite of mine, but this tournament, just being on that whole entire ride with you, because at the time it was like 2007, and I was like briefly out of work. So I had the time, I know it sounds really hysterically funny, but I had the time to actually be, watching the matches or whatever. And it was my very first time in tennis. Like, usually I would always watch Serena and Venus's matches, and Kim Kleister's and a few other people, and yours, of course. At that time, still, I was very new as a tennis fan to a certain extent. But I used to, that was my very, very, very first time seeing the tournament from the first stage all the way to the end. So I just, I just rode with you, and everything was just like, reminded me of something Obama said one time. It's just like an emotional ride. And that's what 2007 US Open was for me. It was like you were quiet, person, but I mean, if that was some damn good tennis. That's what I remember. That's how I felt at that time. I was like, there was some damn good tennis in that tournament that year. And I mean, people gave you a really hard ass time. It wasn't like you just were like, woohoo, and just, picked up the trophy. It was like, it was, for me, it was like you had a bit of a hard time. But there was this other aspect too. There was this aspect where it seemed to me you were a little bored with tennis too, like with certain things, like there were certain balls you just wouldn't even bother to like chase down. You just let them go fly past you because it was just like, oh, whatever, I will break them on their server. I don't know what it was, but it just felt like a little bit of that kind of energy. But anyway, I'm kind of going a little bit off on a tangent. But yeah, I mean, that for me, 2007 was everything that this guy kind of, captured in his Facebook comment that he wrote about you, and when I just followed your entire journey and was just rooting for you the whole way in 2007, and it was such a tough road in that US Open, in my opinion. I'm sure probably yours, sees you're the one who was actually doing all of the work. But when you won that title, it was just something, I don't know, not maybe psychologically, emotionally something. And I just, for that was like it for me. I was like, Roger Federer, man, he is just amazing. Like, not only just being amazing, because I had already known that you were a great tennis player, and I already had actually liked you. But I would always root for you, but I wasn't even that serious. But I think this tournament or whatever, just seeing everything that you had to go through and how you just went from stage to stage to stage. It was really like touching, like to happen to travel that road with the person who happened to be successful from point A to point Z, or from point Z to point A, however you want to put it. And I don't know, it was just a little, not emotional to the point of crying, but so emotional to, for lack of a better word, in a beautiful way. And so then from there, I just always was like in your corner. You know what I mean? Always. But anyway, so besides all of that, listen, as usual, you're doing such a great job, Roger. I know everyone is really so proud of you. I think you just don't even believe what's going on. You're just doing a little extra work here and there. You're trying some things, you're tweaking some things, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't even believe this is happening. Can't believe this is happening this fast. So, you seem like really surprised. Which brings me to a couple of things. Like, the more that I read some of your comments in the news, it's just kind of like, you always kind of say stuff like, well, I'm out there, I'm going to be out there on a tennis court. I have to see how things go, I'll have to see how things, I don't know how to explain it. And I'm not saying that you're the only one who does this, but let me try to complete the sentence. But you talk about things like you're witnessing them rather than kind of making them happen. And I'm not saying that you don't get out on the court and try to be aggressive and that you're not aggressive and stuff like that. I do believe that, but I believe that there's still, you always hear this in your comments. Like, you're always talking about it like you're not here as in here, but you're like up here looking down through the person and witnessing everything, and it's kind of like, oh, well, however it goes, hopefully it'll go like my way. And it's more than just talking about the opponent and what they have to throw and their side of the story that they're going to insert in their side of the game that they're going to force you to react to. This is something that just seems like it just has to do with you. Like you're always sort of observing yourself and going, well, I'll see how I'll be playing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're not here again. It's like you're up here somewhere witnessing the whole thing, and like you're not actually driving the car. But maybe that's a little too strong to say, because I do believe that you do try to make things happen in your matches. But I think you should note that mentally you're still on some level. There's still some energy where you're not like in the driver's seat, and if you're not energetically 100% in the driver's seat, then there is this void where anybody else can create anything, you know what I mean? And I think particularly the match at Indian Wells, the final, I mean, you were doing very well. And, for me, you should have won the match or whatever, but I kind of can't say 100% because I actually truly turned off the match because I had this weird thing. I was like, oh my God, I'm watching this match, and then Roger's doing well, and then Roger starts like, all of a sudden you started losing this intensity. It was like you caught Djokovic's insecurity, like it was contagious or something, and it like just got into you, and all of a sudden you start making these errors, like just like Federer of old. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying the mental interruption is just the way the mental interruption used to be in the Federer of old. Not this Federer who's been playing like very free with confidence, really trusting himself in many ways, and hitting some great 100% just in the zone shots, I guess. So that it's like you were catching Djokovic's, you just completely caught his whatever the heck was going on with Joker. I kind of felt sorry for him. It was like, he just looked so lost on the court. He looked like he was just lost in the sauce. He managed to pull himself back together clearly, but I think something is happening in Joker's game that is similar to what happened to you, but no one will ever experience anything on the level that you experienced and into the magnitude that you experienced it. I think he's looking at, he keeps saying this thing in the media about how he needs mental confidence and all this stuff, and I feel like people are probably looking at that and going like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? I mean, you've pulled yourself through some of the hardest, most dogged matches ever. I mean, I'm just wondering, like, why is he thinking that he doesn't have any mental? I mean, he would know better than I would, but there's this thing too, like, where you know yourself better than other people, but sometimes people see things about you better than you do yourself, and it's the same thing with you, Roger Federer. But I was surprised when Joker said that he needed a new coach because he needed some help mentally, needed to learn how to work through some things, because he's one of the most resilient people out there on the tour, if not maybe the most, as far as that goes, as far as like pulling through these long, ridiculous matches that would break other people down. And he has been eroded mentally, like particularly I've mentioned in my videos at Roland Garros, it was, it's something that Rafa did to him, and you could see him literally sort of melting in confidence or whatever. So anyway, I just feel like he sort of lost a sense of himself a bit. And it feels like some of that little wayward kind of, but in a worse way than what happened with you. And I'm not trying to, I don't mean to say it like that, like I was judging you or saying, oh my God, you were so down and out. No, I'm not, you are, I just want to clarify something for a second. You are doing so much stuff on a world platform that the average person doesn't do. This stuff I won't ever experience probably, being judged by millions of people, being, having people just who don't even know you put all these opinions on you, on your game, telling what you should do, what you can and cannot do, and all of that stuff, and dealing with the pressure of on a global level. So, when I say that, I'm not being critical, because you know what, that's something unique and can't be measured by the average person who doesn't deal with things on a global level. So I'm just saying it slightly. He seemed like really a bit, he's just lost. He's just not a lost person, but he's just kind of, everything is just like, ugh, and he kind of can't, put it back together. So, in a way, I really hated the fact, it was like, sucks when you don't win. I don't know, like, my mood, really sucks when you don't win, but I'm kind of happy in a way, for him, just for the fact of not having to go through the same thing of what you've gone through. I could see it being similar. I'm a little bit happy to the fact that he is able to have just that little bit of respite and have that title in a way. It's secondary though, so that he could, not be so lost. Because it brings to mind this the poem again about the If poem, the saying at Wimbledon, which you would know way better than I would before you go into center court, where it's, triumph and disaster, treat those two imposters the same. It's like when you're winning stuff and killing it 2 years in a row, and then all of a sudden now opponents have a little bit gotten your number a little bit, which Rafa did for Djokovic, and a few other people, Stan Wawrinka, a few other people, in that last year. Now, I'm not talking about this year, I'm just talking about last year. Everything was kind of affecting Djokovic mentally. And then coming into this year and actually getting knocked out. He had some trouble. What was it? Roland Garros too. Stan almost took him out. Who the heck else was it? Was Tsonga? I can't even remember. Who the heck was it that he had to go to 5 sets with? I think it was Stan. At Roland Garros. Anyway, so yeah, I just feel like he just kind of lost his way in the wins, you know what I mean? And it was just showing in a very painful way. So I'm kind of a little bit glad in a way that he kind of got that win. That was after I was really disappointed that you didn't win. Very, very disappointed. It took a couple of days, but I was kind of like, you know what, in a way. Because you have the rest of the season, actually, to adjust and to beat Djokovic again, and tons of other... I've got bedhead. And tons of other matches. So in a way, it's kind of fine. But I only feel sorry because I know what you went through, and I feel like he's kind of going through the same thing, but in a worse way. So anyway, getting back to you. I was just gonna say that, you just seem like you're like witnessing there's still an aspect of a little bit of lack of belief. And, I think when you are in the zone, when your mind is completely uninhibited and free of any inhibition and any, any sort of doubt, I guess you could say, you really pull off some of the best shots. And I just really, it feels to me like you were in that match, you were leading. I know that Djokovic started off a little bit bad in the beginning of the match. And, excuse me, you took the first set, and then it was like you just, it was kind of like how I talk about that syndrome, like, I don't know, maybe almost 2 years ago now, in the videos where as I was in track in high school, and it was like whenever I would get out to lead in the front of the pack of people, of runners, that I would be like, oh, like, what am I going to do now? I'm out front. Oh, my God. I mean, I'm happy, but oh, my God, I want to win, but oh, my God, And that's what it kind of reminded me of, like with you. Like it was like you got out front, like you had this whole match you could have won. You had Djokovic mentally, like you could have really taken advantage of that mentally because he was disheveled, more than disheveled. It's there's no word checkered kind of thing going on for him. His wits were sort of checkered, but anyway, it was like you got out front and you were like, yeah, and then he just started making all these errors and stuff like that. So, um, I'm just wondering again, like the belief system, and number one, you're surprised that you're succeeding, because obviously, clearly, you don't know what your potential is at this point in your career, and that's what I've been saying in my videos, and this is what so many people have been upset with you in the past because they know you can do so much better. I think only you don't see it. It's really kind of unfortunate in a way you don't see it. Um, but you do see it at the same time. So I don't want to sound condescending or anything like that because I don't mean it in a way. But there's really a vital portion of it that you don't see. And I think if you were able to really be in that element where you could see it, you would unleash so many more shots. You would have, you see these flashes of moments with you where you are completely in alignment on the court, where you just hit a shot and it hits the line, and it's just, you could tell in the body language, and your body language, like there's no thought, there's no hesitation. It's just pure, like in the zone. It's beautiful, and a lot of athletes don't even, it's like a special moment to be in the zone, I guess you could say, or in alignment. I would say it's a little bit under in the zone, but in alignment, you could tell. But if you were aware, fully 100% aware, if you were able to step outside of yourself and see what fans see, fans with sense and good critical thinking skills can see, you would be hitting a lot more of those shots, because something's in the way of your belief system, you know, to trust yourself on the court sometimes, and to trust yourself that you deserve to win. I do believe that you lost a little bit of that, got a little disheveled, but you know what? I mean, competing is so hard, they say it's 90% mental. I mean, it's all great and it's good to be physically prepared and stuff like that, but if you don't have the mental aspect 100% down, I mean, you could be as fit as you want to be. And, so that's just not going to happen necessarily without having all of your mental stuff in alignment. But I was going to say, if you start, I know what I wanted to say. I know I'm like kind of rambling as if I'm like, it's only 11 o'clock and I'm rambling like it's 2 in the morning. I read somewhere on Twitter, I'm supposed to be on a Twitter diet or whatever, and I'm like end up on Twitter reading stuff. I'm not really posting anything, but I'm like reading. I read somewhere where somebody said you started visualizing again, which I think is an excellent idea. Kudos to you. I'm so glad you see yourself visualizing. But you should, before you start visualizing, you should, I don't know if you do believe in God or whatever, but you should go in with an open mind that you are going to either have assistance in believing that you can perform at the top, the highest part of the highest level, or or that you're going to like remove and set aside all types of blocks and obstruction that would impede you from visualizing at the highest level of performance. And I think that you also need to ask if, or you need to declare to yourself that, like, I am ready, I'm emotionally ready to win, I am psychologically ready to win, and that's for lack of a better word, but can you win? Yes. Do you know what it's like to win? Of course you do. Are you capable of winning? Damn for sure are. You have no clue. I think, I don't think you even have 100% of a clue how much you are capable of winning. But there's that thing again, it's like, oh, I want to be out front, you know what I mean? It's like, ooh, beating Djokovic for a second time, so it's that kind of thing, like running at the front of the pack, like, where do I go when I'm out front? Am I going to be able to keep this up? Then are people going to be expecting all this stuff from me? Oh my gosh, Roger's beating Djokovic and all this, and then you have this whole built up expectation where now you're under pressure to perform, to win every single time against Djokovic. Whereas when you're playing on the side where you're not winning against Djokovic or whatever, you don't really have, I don't want to say you don't have anything to lose, but that type of pressure and that craziness that comes from the press and the world and everything, that's not on you, and I think there's a little bit of trauma from just the 2008, 2009 era, where, people were just being so terrible and unfair to you, it really must have been something awful, I couldn't imagine that. And I don't mean to sound all, like, sad and stuff, but just really hit me, like, there's no real athlete in the tennis world who kind of was at the peak and the height in the same manner that you were. So I truly believe no one on this earth, in the tennis world at least, has experienced anything like you have in that manner. So, are you really ready to win? And I think visualizing as well is great, but visualizing a sense of being safe and feeling safe, meaning that, it's safe for me to win, and it's safe for me to be ahead of the pack, and it's safe for me to perform at the top, and it's safe for me to be expected to win. If you are setting that out there mentally, then I think you're going to have that support system come around. Anyone who's done real visualization, and I am such a freaking hypocrite right now, because as much as I want to visualize, I don't even do it as much as I really like to, but I really truly believe a lot in visualization. But I think if you are cultivating a sense of really creating an intention that you are going to be safe in competing, in leading, and taking your rightful place ahead of these guys, and no, it's not to say, oh my God, it's not, these aren't tough competitors you're dealing with. Clearly they are. As they know you are. Djokovic said in his tweet, he said, right, every time playing Roger, every single time is very emotional. It's everything that every natural human being will go through, I suppose. Obviously competing, wanting to win, and being afraid to lose, and dealing with a hard competitor like Roger Federer. So you are destined actually for really huge and big things, and you should just know that. Like, you need to step back, return to that level that you were originally performing at, because you do want it, and it's not like I want to tell you what you want, but you do want to win. You want to be the best, and you talk about having that fire, having that will to want to win, that drive to want to win, which is delicious. It's nothing like being undermotivated. You know what I mean? Like, at least you have the natural motivation, like something's burning in the the belly for you to win. But you're still at this point where you don't feel that it's safe to win. And I think that if you do some work, either meditational, or even visualization, and you set the intention that you are going to be safe, it's going to be safe for you to win, and that you are ready. If you work with those two things, like, you have to be ready to win, and it clearly we're not ready to win at Indian Wells, because you just, again, we're leading in a great position. Joker was completely like mentally shot anyway. He just had pretty much resigned that you were gonna lose. He was just playing point by point. That's all he was doing. And I'm not disrespecting him. I really like him. If his parents were on the schedule before your parents, I would be a Joker fan. But your parents were on the schedule. No, I'm just kidding. So, no, if and only if there were no Roger Federer, then I would be a number one Joker fan, and I'll tell you why. I'm like going off on all these different tangents. What else is new? But I know at the end of the day, like when you lost, I was completely rooting against Djokovic. As much as I like him, and it's funny because back when I used to like Rafa a lot more, it's not that I dislike Rafa, but my thing. When it comes down to the line, when Roger Federer is like gonna go out against another opponent, it's like you get clear on who you want to win right away. You get extremely clear, and I was like, wow, I'm really clear about who I want to win. And the same thing that happened with Rafa, and I like Joker, and the same exact thing happened with Joker. Like when it comes down to the wire, if the last set, so. Yeah, but getting back to this, like if you're gonna do work and visualization first, before you start your visualization, you need to make sure that you, for lack of a better word, unpollute your glass. I know that probably sounds so stupid or left field. Clear your mind would be, it's like you're trying to do something. Your mind is like okay, here I go. Here, let me translate it into English. Your mind is, you're visualizing, you're using your mind to visualize, and it's like a glass of clear water. Only, number one, you don't feel safe with winning. Number two, you don't feel like you're ready to win 100%, or put yourself in a position where it's going to create a whole bunch of pressure where you're really excelling, and excelling does create a lot of pressure, especially from the media. So I think on some level psychologically you step back from that, and I think that your matches, it's been the cost of a match, of a win, on quite a few occasions in last month or so, and other instances in the past. But if you are visualizing, which you should be doing, you should just, before you do it, prep and just, intend to feel safe. Know that and set the intention that it's safe to win. It's safe to excel. I see a way, and your belief system as well, or whatever I said about 10 minutes ago in this video. So just do that. Oh my God, it's 32 minutes. I really have a lot more to say, but I'm just gonna probably pretty much leave it at that. You are doing an amazing job. The precedent that you're setting now is kind of like the effect where, I don't know if you watched in the past years ago when that show Fear Factor was on, where people used to compete and do like all of these like stunts and different things like that. Like they would walk across a tightrope on a really tall building or something like that. And there was this effect. The first person will go. You'd have to be timed. So let's just say, they did like a tightrope across a really, really, really extremely high skyscraper. The first person will go, and the other competitors would be sitting there watching the first person. Everybody be scared to bits. And the first person will go, but the first person is the pathfinder, so the first person would be trying to figure out how slow to go, how they'd be tentative and this, that, and the third. And the second person, I always felt that this was an effect. The second person who went always exceeded the time that the first person did, and the third person who went typically exceeded the time that the second person did. So it's always kind of that first person who sets the sort of the belief, kind of like that Roger Bannister who ran the mile in under 4 minutes, because before him nobody was running the mile under 4 minutes. It was almost considered absolutely an impossible and just intangible concept, inconceivable almost. And then Roger Bannister broke that record, and then after he broke that record, there were like more and more people doing it. So what you're doing now is so many ways, playing at 32, dealing with all this pressure and stuff like that. Like Joker, Rafa, they have like a little bit, they have like a trail already, because you've already made a trail. So the pressure is a little bit less for them. The problems are a little bit less, even though I'm not diminishing that they go through a heck of a lot of stuff in their own right. But even you playing this well at 32, to be quite honest, the fact that people are watching you now, the younger players, the Djokovic and stuff like that, they'll probably be playing at 32 as well. And since you're making it so possible, and I know that people like Pete Sampras and, I talk about them all the time, Pete and Andre Agassi and Jimmy Connors too. I mean, Jimmy Connors was like playing, he was like competing at 39 years old, I mean, other people have done this, but it's still a little bit of a different story. So, I feel like you're doing this, you're normalizing a certain level of consciousness. And so it's not a mental challenge to create for people. So for Djokovic and even Rafa, it'll be easy for them to play. I'm not saying easy physically, but, it'll be something for them to play at 32. So, just know what you're going through. And if you're going to be doing all of this, go hard on it, Roger. You know what I mean? Go hard, because you deserve to be, at the forefront of everything. It's really your rightful place. You were built for this. It's just true. You were built and probably maybe even born for this. I imagine you were born for this, Imagine this is something that you wanted to do and you created for yourself, and because again, you look at people who are top level athletes like you, Tiger Woods, even Ryan Sheckler, the skateboarder. Like, you guys were doing this stuff at like 2 years old, 3 years old. I think your mother was saying, oh, Roger was like hitting, he always had a ball in his hand. He was always like doing something with a ball. He always had a keen interest in a ball. And Tiger Woods was like the same way too. Like, he's always like playing with his father's golf clubs or something like that. I'm really not much into golf, but I know that bit of that story. Like, he was like 2 or 3 years old. And Ryan Sheckler was like 3, and he started skateboarding. Like, he just couldn't put down the skateboard. He was always like holding it and stuff like that. So, you are built, you're built for this, it's what it is. So anyway, I think that you are going to you do a great justice to yourself if you do those things. If you prepare yourself and give yourself permission to be ready to win, you're going to win a lot more. There's really no reason to have lost that match. I'm not trying to say you didn't work hard, and maybe it's a little unfair because I did turn the match off, because I think I was trying to say earlier in the video, it was like you were playing well, and I was watching the match, and I was just feeling like it's just some weird fan crap in my own head. I was like, I feel like I'm jinxing the match. I will turn it off so he can win. I don't know why. I'm not bad luck or anything like that, but I don't know. Like, I was like, felt like I was like worrying, or I don't know if it's worrying. No, it's not true. But yeah, I don't feel like I'm bad luck or anything like that, but I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I was like, let me just turn the match off. Oh, I know, I can put it into words now. Like, I wouldn't obsess over the fact that, what's he gonna win? He's winning and stuff. And there were the commentators again saying, oh, Roger Federer's on his way to a title. I'm like, it's just the first set. I mean, the first set is a great start, but I'm just saying, like, let's talk when he is like halfway through the second set. You know what I mean? Up a break. So until then, just let the man play. Don't start declaring the freaking trophy in his hands and all of that, And I always love to say, oh, championship point, Roger. I'm all into that. But as soon as a freaking announcer say it, I'm like, ugh. So it's like, let me turn this off. But I think, yeah, just get clear, really, on what the commitment's going to be, you know, with the winning, so freaking what? You be Djokovic once, twice, whatever, and then now you've got to be all consistent about it. You know what? I think if you simply commit to just doing your best and you continue to do what you did at Indian Wells when you were standing there holding that little glass, the trophy, and you just put on this really nice smile, like you were content, but you also put on this smile to set the tone. You know what I mean? Because when you notice when the individual sets the tone, then it's hard for other people to say, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's when you lose, or, this is just even in everyday life, like, people can sit in a room and they can totally laugh the hell out at somebody. And, a whole group of people can laugh at one person, but if that person does not take on the energy of like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Oh, if that person just keeps a straight face and whatever, like, all of a sudden it like sort of extinguishes and cuts out the energy. It's like, it takes participation. It takes two people, let's say it takes the one object and another, and as much as this person or this entity is sending out whatever, it still needs this other entity to help create that reality. And if that other entity is just not going to participate in creating that reality, then this can't really do much, so it's going to end up taking on what the original person or entity is creating. And I think that you're doing a good job by you were smiling, you were so happy, you just seem genuinely pleased. And you should be really proud of yourself. I'm super proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You've been through so much and you've just been fighting and doing so well. And I just, just from human being to human being, like, I root for you. I just want to see the freaking best for you, what I know can really happen. So, you just get yourself ready to win. Get clear about that, really get clear. Like, do you feel safe winning, And, what it's going to take, what I mean, for you to move out for the front, to run that race from the front, or you're going to be comfortable with just letting Djokovic get win by default, because you want to sit in the backseat. I'm not saying that in a nasty way, but you compromised yourself. You did compromise yourself. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, because you've been through a lot, and, that match, you should have taken that match, seriously. And it's the same thing sort of with Rafa and a lot of the matches, too. I know it's tough to beat some of these guys and stuff like that, but you're on the right path. And with a little more analysis and just continued commitment to changing and adapting every single time. And hey, don't even get used to the racket. I know this might really rattle you by saying this, but don't even get used to the racket that you have. Keep trying to improve it. I'm not saying that it's right to change your racket so much, because I know you're just adjusting, so I don't want to kind of say something and kind of throw you off into something else. But I'm just saying, if you can improve the strings a little bit to put, or whatever, why not, And I know that it's hard to adjust. I mean, I don't know, to be quite honest. I'll give you that credit. But, just stay adaptable. Keep trying out new things on the side. Don't just attach yourself to this one racket. Like, look for have them keep creating stuff and just play with it in the off season. I mean, a couple times. The second thing, lastly, I'll probably be talking 24 hours from now. But I saw a nice practice session with you and Stefan Edberg and at Palm Springs. It was great. I don't know who this was. I got this nice practice match with you guys. It's like 15 minutes. But I don't know fully what your routine is, but I'm going to tell you, I mean, you're practicing with him, which is great, but he is an older player. I saw him playing against Tsonga, and of course, obviously, he's good, Obviously, he has a wonderful backhand. I mean, people were commenting on his backhand on YouTube as well. Obviously, he's a great player, and I think for me, he seems like a really sweet man. I don't know him personally or anything, but he just seems like a genuinely sweet person. Somebody who will tell you kind of like what it is, but just genuine, like a real sweet man. And I'm glad you ended up with him and not with um, Becker, actually. Which that's another story. I don't think that relationship's gonna last long. I've been trying not to say that for a really long time now, and I don't wish any harm on Joker, but it just seems like that's not gonna last long. And then on top of that, when Joker won, they were like, "Do you want to say anything to your coach who's not here?" He was like, "See you in Miami." It was like, ooh. Anyway, so I saw you and Stefan playing, but I didn't really see you guys focusing on your backhand. I just feel like you should be, that's the area where your game is like getting broken down. Even though you have been improving, I give it to you. Even Djokovic just said, I just read like an hour ago, Djokovic said how much better you are playing, how much more confident in your game you are. How much your backhand, you're creating chances for yourself off your backhand, how you're just creating great shots off the backhand. And it's true. But people are still, there's no reason for you, in my view. I feel like you should be in your practices focusing a hell of a lot more on your backhand than just the regular hitting. You guys are just like hitting back and forth. I mean, you know how to hit a racket. And I mean, it's not like I'm mean to come in and be like, oh, well, you need to be doing this. Like, well, I do say that stuff a lot, don't I? But, I'm just like looking at this 15 minutes of this hitting back and forth, and it's just kind of like, dude, the problem, you need to go to the problem and be focusing on that. And I don't know, that was 15 minutes of a practice. Maybe you focus on your backhand a lot more, but there were times, mostly it was a focus on the forehand, and there was a little focus on the backhand. But I feel like a lot of people were able to, even players like Dog Pogolov. Oh God, I hope I got that right. I was kind of invert the P and the G in his name. I don't know what I did this time. The whole dog. Anyway, so he's getting some good shots off on your backhand, and that I remember or whatever. He was just getting some pretty good shots off, and it's interesting because some players have an easier time. They're small players. Like, he's a small player, but he can generate a really good amount of pace on a ball. And I feel like even in the women's game, too, I don't know so much recently, but I remember always thinking, like, how Jankovic, she generates a lot of freaking pace on her shots. And so does Kim Clijsters. So I just feel like, kind of like, being big does not necessarily determine pace on a shot. And I just wonder, like, what are those players doing? Is there anything that you can learn in the way that the body is that you can just increase pace, on the shots? Because at the beginning of Indian Wells, you were hitting balls really hard and stuff like that, and I think that you could see by the time you got to the finals that you didn't look physically tired or physically worn out or anything, but I just didn't see you trying to hit those same shots with the same amount of pace, like putting that extra effort in. Not that you weren't making effort, but just putting that extra oomph in. And so I was like, oh, he must be a little tired, and rightly so, because you were playing doubles and all this stuff. So, I mean, that might be something you want to consider too. I know you play doubles every year at Indian Wells, but how many times this year are you going to play doubles and stuff like that? Because that might really affect, when you need all the juice at the end for a final. I'm not totally sure. But then again, too, it's always freaking good to play doubles, I think, just for that extra practice. But anyway, I just wonder what Jankovic does, what Kim Clijsters did, and even the dog, as they call him. I'll just put it like that. Um, these smaller people can put a lot of pace on shots. So I just wonder what the technique is. And it brings me back to, excuse me, some kung fu, like where the use of the body, what they call the chi, the energy of being able to generate a good punch or whatever type of energy you need to send off, it starts in the legs, and you're pulling the energy up from the legs and into the top of the body. So I just wonder, like, if you're interested in that too, I feel like you should check that out a little bit. I don't think you really have much of the time, but it might be, something to learn. Like, maybe you could even learn like one or two new techniques. Don't cringe about learning something new. Don't think like, oh, it's gonna throw my game off. It's gonna take years to learn this. It doesn't necessarily. Sometimes it's just a matter of certain posture or certain stance or whatever. They can make all the difference. So you might want to check that out. But anyway, I guess I'm gonna go. Again, super doing a great job. I still feel like, you could, as great of a job as you're doing, as amazing a job that you're doing, I feel like I have a good grasp on what your talent is, and that there's so much room for you to step into a higher performance even, and I mean that not a way to reflect and say, oh, you haven't been working hard, because it's not true. But I think you need to, it seems to me, to a certain extent, get a little bit real about focusing more on what doors are open for the opponents to take advantage of in your game and breaking down your game, and it still is, at the end of the day, even though you're doing very well in the backhand and killing a lot of shots in the backhand, you're hitting harder on the backhand, it's still the backhand that is a little bit of the hole in the boat. So I just feel like in practice, like, you should be, maybe, I don't know who needs to be standing at the net and they need to just be serving the hell into your backhand. Like, you need to learn how to deal with that, because people are serving into your backhand and sometimes you can't get the shot off fast enough. But I'm not saying that has to do with just your backhand. It's anticipation, and I imagine all of those things are so difficult when you're doing it on the highest level. So, it's not to dismiss what you're doing, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, you got to work on what needs working on. It's not your forehand really, and so all of that hitting back and forth, in my opinion, it's just kind of like, when are you gonna work on the backhand more? And I'm not saying, you may have done it. Maybe I saw a portion of the film that just didn't include that, but it didn't seem like it to me. So anyway, with that, good luck. I think this is a great thing. Like, I say all these things because I feel like if you don't work on the stuff that needs to be worked on, it's just a confidence issue. Like, this is going to be like seeping into your confidence rather than an opportunity to be like, okay, let's see what open doors I can close on the opponents. And that's what you need to be doing, and not accepting your place. I'm glad you're smiling, and I'm, glad you're setting the tone for people, not to be like, oh, Roger didn't win, that type of thing. But at the same time, if you really want to put yourself in a position to really continue to win, you're going to have to be mentally available. And in order to be mentally available, you're going to have to plug up the holes in the boat. Continue to really hone in on what needs working on and put that in your practice, if that's not already happening, which I kind of feel in certain ways not happening a little bit enough. So, yeah, and maybe a little bit, it's great to practice with the coach and stuff like that, but, is he, at the end of the day, on the level that you need him to be, which, no, he's like almost 50 or something. He's in great shape, don't get me wrong. He's in wonderful shape, but, I think you need you need somebody probably younger to be playing you, you know. And those workouts, I don't know, maybe they're light workouts because it doesn't make sense to work so hard when you have a hard match the next day and stuff. And I truly don't know your workout stuff again, but I just feel like, even more so than just doing practice sessions with the younger guys and stuff like that, maybe you could just hire somebody or whatever, or just have somebody who just comes and focuses on you, who's young, who can hit the ball hard and just, make you go for it. Or just, practice all the holes. Because I don't feel like you're going to be able to really usurp 100% what you need to do by practicing with a coach who hasn't been on tour and I'm not in a real heavy competitive tour. And I'm really not putting down those. I'm hearing these words and I'm like, damn, it sounds so harsh. I don't mean it like that at all, truly. So, Anyway, let me just go ahead and go. Good luck. You're doing such a great job, but just keep up the good work and know that if you don't actually right now start really honing in on what you need to hone in on your game, and that means breaking away from normal routines and like focusing more on the stuff like, here's what didn't work, here's what didn't work, here's what didn't work, and I need to work on this. I'm like dead serious about that, and I know it's like easy for me to say because I'm not the one on the tennis court, but if you don't work on that stuff, you're gonna have problems. I'm not putting any predictions into your life, but there are gonna be problems in the rest of the season. So you need to like take this feedback now. However, Djokovic was able to mentally get past you and physically get past you. You had some problems with the Pogolov, and a little bit here, a little bit there, and then some other opponents as well. It's just that they were making a lot of errors and stuff like that. So that was sort of the saving grace at times. I think where your game is a little vulnerable is that you are dealing a lot of times again with a one-hander situation, and so a lot of other people playing with two hands and they're able to generate a lot of power. So it's kind of like uneven ground that you're competing on, so you're already doing well. But even these players who are a little less top tier, so to speak, on a good day, you never know, taking advantage of your backhand and stuff like that could get past you. You don't want that to happen, for the rest of the season. And you want to be able to get past Djokovic because he's just going to start increasing his, the stakes are getting higher now, so he, Rafa, Murray, all of them, they're just going to start kicking it up more, just like you are. And, but, just close those open doors. It's going to be the biggest favor you do for yourself. That's what you need to focus on next. And notice if you're putting any resistance up to practicing a little bit more in a different way or working on the things that need to be worked on. All right, so it's an entire freaking hour I've talked. It's sick. Have a good one. Talk to you soon. And congratulations. You really are doing a great job no matter what I said in this video. You're doing tremendously. But just really take this opportunity. It's a perfect time. You have a great coach. Seems like a wonderful man. And, you're feeling really good. And soon you're gonna be having like possibly twins, I hear, so who knows how this season is going to be able to be for you right now. So you might as well do yourself the justice while you have the availability. Before the twins come and you need to support me, you're good. I want to get all in your personal life. But, now while you have a little bit of time left is the time to really be focusing on this, because you're not necessarily you're gonna have a little bit more mental space and emotional space taken up maybe by the new addition to your family, and especially if you have twins, another set of twins. Oof. But at least you guys have been through this once. It so happens, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I have 3 sets of twins in my family, and I was supposed to be a twin as well. So I kind of have the experience with it. It is a lot of work, and it really takes, 2 people is not even enough for twins. You really need what you have, like You know, you need 2 people plus 2 nannies. You know, you're probably gonna, if you have 2, you're probably gonna have to hire 2 more people. My God. Oh my God. Anyway, good luck with everything, Raj. Love you, Raj. Have a good one. Take care. Bye. And thanks for listening to such a long video.